The Racing Pod
on Off the Ball
with William Hill. Best odds guaranteed on all Irish and UK racing. 18 plus. See gamblingcare.ie.
And you're welcome to episode 51 of the Racing Pod on Off the Ball with John Duggan and Johnny Ward. Remember, we're here every week with analysis, race previews, tips, stories, interviews and the crack. The first half of the pod each week is free to air. The second part is exclusively for members. So be sure to sign up by going to offtheball.com/join. And this week for members, we're going to look at Sunday's action at Navan and Cheltenham, big races on Sunday. So subscribe now. Johnny, how are you getting on?
I'm great. I just thought there, JD, you're back from Boston. In the old days, you could have gone to Suffolk Downs, but not anymore.
I could have.
Yeah.
I was looking at because I went to New York for a day, as you do. So I flew at 6 o'clock in the morning to New York and went back at 11 o'clock at night and just left everything in the hotel room in Boston. And I saw on the subway line they had Aqueduct.
Yeah. I've been to Aqueduct several times. Yeah, it's very near JFK.
Yeah.
And it's you go there in the depths of winter with a lot of people who I dare say probably haven't a day job, and they roar abuse at the jockeys if they don't win, possibly while smoking some strong stuff, and it's great fun. Great fun.
We haven't spoken since City of Troy, actually. I was watching that, I think the weekend I came home, and you just knew after a few strides it was over.
Yeah, the whole thing just left me very... I don't know, like very flat, because I wasn't surprised he didn't handle the ground, but at the same time it's kind of like in this day of the money that Coolmore and Ballydoyle have and the facilities they have, like surely this should never happen again, where a horse of his value, and like bear in mind now George Washington suffered a fatal injury in this race, and it's a race that actually is quite hard on horses, especially if the dirt rides a certain way, but like he patently may as well have been running in a swimming pool. Like he absolutely did not handle the surface. So it's kind of like next time if you're going over, at least have a fair idea that he will handle it or won't.
Is that not why they tried Southwell?
But Southwell is totally different, like, and for me, that was a bit of a PR thing and it was a day out, and that's fine, but the dirt in Southwell are there's no comparison. It's like but
it was maybe the fact that he was at a Justify that they thought.
Oh, it was, but he was by he's by Justify, but it's the fact that I don't know. I was reading Brian O'Connor had a piece where he quoted a famous trainer whose name escapes him, but he said that trainer reckons 3/4 of it comes from the mother. And then of the general, pedigree in a horse, 3/4 comes from mother, and there's probably a lot to that. But like with all the, he could have had a really good end to the season at Leopardstown, or he could have
gone to the Arc.
Could have run in the turf race, could have done all these things, and instead it was just a sorry sight. Like, and that race,
but they won it anyway, didn't they?
They won it anyway. Like
Sierra Leone,
that's fine. But Sierra Leone obviously doesn't mean anything to me. And City of Troy is a horse that I did see in the yard, and I did kind of love the horse. I love the way he finishes his races, and ultimately he's standing for, is it 80 grand or whatever it is? But it was just like, how can you be so in the dark about sending a horse all of the preparation and the amount of poverty in the world, the money that was spent on wasting that horse going to the States? Like, I mean, so much money.
You only know when it happens, because when you turned up with the Guineas and he flopped.
Yeah, but in fairness, that dirt. Aidan O'Brien's record on dirt is really bad, unless if the horse is entirely American bred. And in fairness, I lauded like the lads for giving it a go, but it was just like you've put the horse into a situation here where like he's really not enjoying it, and this surface is completely alien to him. So maybe the next time Ballydoyle or Coolmore do it, they'll have some sort of surface at home on which they can work the horse and say,
or they go over there beforehand if they can.
But he worked on it that week, and they still didn't seem to know. Like this horse, like he could not. No, it's interesting, JD. Like turf racing over here is we love it, but dirt racing is so hard. Like they go really hard early, and you can be like, I mean, all the kickback and all that. You can be, this is like alien to me, and there's an element of that as well. But he was well off the pace, and he never improved his position. So he patently didn't handle the surface. So on the one level, I've lauded Ballydoyle and Coolmore for giving it a go, and the lads as they may be extremely wealthy, but they are getting on a bit, and they should be sports fans, which they are. But that I just thought the City of Troy thing was unsavoury almost to watch him struggle like that, because he's a horse that I'd be too fond of to see him run like that.
Well, he's the apple of his trainer's eye. So look, I I'd say Aidan is more devastated than anybody else about it, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was a kind
He's
of...
talking about this horse is the greatest he's ever had.
Yeah,
and
whether he is or not.
He ran like a drain.
You know, Aidan probably talks more about his horses than he did earlier in his life. But I'm not saying he's wrong about City of Troy, but like I do remember George Washington suffering a fatal injury in that race, and Mick Kinane cradling the horse, and Mick Kinane extolling the bravery of the horse, trying to stand up and be brave when he was just about to be put down. And like that race for me after that in City of Troy, was like, don't go there unless you know the horse is going to handle it, because it's a rough race, and it could have been bad for City of Troy. Like, and I know it's a small chance of it happening, but Jesus, they ran him for a minute and a half or whatever it was on a surface he hated, and you know, I felt it took the gloss out of it a lot for me.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I just feel that I don't think they knew until it actually happened, but maybe
they didn't.
For the future, it's a case that...
Oh no, they didn't, but that's my point. It's like, how can you be so in the dark with all of the technology and methodology and AI and everything we have, that he's just like, we've gone all the way around the world for this.
Maybe it's because of the Justify, and as you say, the mother. The jump season's back. Are you reading any stable tours? Have you even looked at a jumps race yet?
Yeah, I'm watching a bit of jumps racing, obviously, at the moment. I've been working, but the ground conditions have made the field sizes like... I mean, British racing at the moment looks like a bad bags greyhound meeting where they can't... It's 5 runners average today's at Newcastle. 2 horse races, 3 horse races, because of the lack of horses and the ground. And in Ireland as well, JD... you know, Eddie Scally said before Saturday they'd had 1 million in 13 days, which is really incredible. So that's had an issue with the runners of the...
No Willie Mullins runner in the Troy Town at Navan on Sunday?
No, and I'd imagine that's definitely ground related. Willie doesn't tend to target the Down Royal meeting so much, but this was a meeting where, particularly that maiden chase on the Sunday, he'd run very good horses. I'm thinking of like Vautour and... I think Duvan might have actually made his chase debut in that race, but he's run good horse in it, and I don't know if he's...
Are you enthused about this jump season so far? Are you somebody who reads the stable tours, has an anti-post bet? Like, we'll obviously do our tend to follow ourselves. We'll speak to some trainers, but how are you feeling about it? Are you a bit kind of whatever?
Like I have to say, the more it goes on...
You need to get into your third pint.
Yeah, the more I prefer the flat, JD, as things go on. And the Cheltenham, for me, Cheltenham was very disappointed for me this year. It was just far too dominated by the Irish, the big races.
Maybe we just need to stop talking about Cheltenham the way we do.
Yeah, but it's still... I don't know, it's still our World Cup, and Cheltenham is what... watching Cheltenham for the first time with a few mates in the pub when I was in college, like I honestly I got such a buzz off that. It was incredible. Now, I didn't know much about racing, so I'll never forget what Cheltenham meant to me for much of my life since then. But this year was a bit different, and I just hope that the one thing I would say is the Cheltenham November meeting and the Cheltenham October meeting, this weekend's Cheltenham meeting have been excellent, and I am looking forward to seeing good horses run as the year goes on. But we do need rain for the Irish ones.
Okay, so we have got Navan on Saturday as we start our previews. A few good races here at Navan on Saturday. Good to yielding ground. The 4 auction novice hurdle 125. Blood de Vassy, I don't think the ground's going to be an issue for him. Gordon Elliott happy with the way he bolted up at Ferryhouse last month after taking a while to get the hang of bumpers. You also got Mr. Percy, won a maiden hurdle at Limerick for Joseph O'Brien. Good connections. The dark green, and more to come for him as well. Ground, no issue there. So Helvick Dream is a former Tattersall's Gold Cup winner. I think Blood de Vassy was the one I was interested in, this one, the 4 auction novice hurdle for auction, the 1982 champion hurdle winner.
Yeah, and I actually spent a night in Mount Juliet there. I was treated to Mount Juliet by my better half, and the amount of, like, all of these racing books and all these horses that I'd never heard of, and the owners had great horses like 120 years ago, and there's so much history, and it's right beside Ballylynch Stud. And when you see what kind of the old horses like for auction and stuff like that, and what racing was like in those days in Ireland, really the refuge of probably wealthy owners, and the odd kind of good horse came through. But this is a cracking race, actually. I might go with Mr. Percy, JD. I was at Limerick when he won, and he was sent off 5-6, but he was 2-5 in his hurdling debut. He was very good, and
out of a Derby winner, Sir Percy.
By Sir Percy, yeah, and he was just so well backed. I like the way he did it. He's a 4-year-old taking on good horses here. Blood de Vassy, even my way of thinking, Padder Merchant, Royal Hollow is a horse I certainly wouldn't be giving up on. But I like this horse. I feel with his flat form, he's going to love the conditions. And this is a great meeting for Navan. They've merged the two together, the Saturday and the Sunday, and it's a cracking little festival.
I'm going to go for Blood of Vassy, Gordon Elliott's horse in the for auction novice hurdle. The Liz Mullen hurdle at 158, 2.5 miles, 9 runners. Bob Ollinger, 9 now, won the race last year, top class horse in his day. If he retains that ability, the one to beat. We have as well Home by the Lee, won the race 2 years ago. Azana here, due a day in the sun, but it's got a poor strike rate since his juvenile hurdling days. Jack Kennedy does ride though. Jatara is a lovely, likeable mare. She's only 6, more to come from her. Dawn Rising is interesting for me, a horse in form off the flat where he's been doing well for 18 months. A course and distance winner. I thought that was an interesting outsider in the colours of JP McManus.
Are you going to tip Dawn Rising?
Probably.
And then for both tipping Dawn Rising, this is interesting. This horse is the second outsider, he's his third outsider, 20-1 top price of William Hill. I honestly, I was looking at this. I was like, how is this horse 20-1? He's had 5 starts over hurdles. He's been second. He's won 2, finished third twice. He beat American Mike over course and distance as a novice. Now that was an extraordinary race where I think he was matched at about 500-1 in run, and he looked well beaten turn in, but he ended up going away and really strong. He ran to about 105 on the flat when he beat Lily Hart the last day. So he's only having his 6th hurdle start. Loves it around here. He's in great form. Joseph O'Brien in great form. He has. I don't see any negatives at all for him. He's getting £5 off Bob Ollinger. He's fit. Bob Ollinger hasn't run in 219 days. He's nearly 10 years of age. Home by the Lee. Look at Home by the Lee's record coming into the race. Pulled up third, 5th of 6, third, 6th of... Home by the Lee has become disappointing. 2.5 miles on this sort of ground will be quick for him. Zana here, as you mentioned, Zana here was running in the Galway Plate. This isn't what he's doing anymore. And then I'd probably say Jatara, yeah, I respect her, but should she be 3-1 and a horse who's basically running to Group 2 pattern on the flat, Group 2 standard on the flat, 20-1. I just think this is a completely crazy price. I'd make him about 6 or 7-1.
Set the alarm. McMahon Double J's early this week on the Racing Pod. Dawn Rising, we both fancy it, 20-1 each way. Form off the flash, doing well for 18 months. Course and distance winner, interesting outsider. What's not to like? Dawn Rising each way, folks, for your Euro each way
terms.
Mike May. I've been having such a good time
Any
in
double
Boston.
J's in Boston?
Many double J's, and I can't even speak now. So Dawn Rising, Mike Man a double J for your racing.
You got some lovely commentary from Declan Lynch in The Independent about your piece of David Russell.
Yes, that was. Look, you get superstitious about radio reviews because you want to see them, but you never look. You got to respect the critics, whether it's positive or negative or constructive. But no, Davey was very good to bringing me into his home last week, and obviously that was the episode 50. That was the celebratory episode of the pod. So look, it was all about Davey really, and he was open with his time and open with his story.
Yeah, he's from an unbelievable generation of jockeys. Very eloquent as well in front of the mic.
Got his book out, Davy Russell, in all good bookshops for Christmas, folks. We also have the 4-3 at Chase, 233, 6 runners. Now, you're a big Banbridge fan. I remember at Punchestown you were tearing your hair out because you didn't back it. Paul Tannen riding, must have
Had
good
to bring
ground.
it up, JD.
Yeah,
that was a good day out.
It was. Beat Captain Guinness that day, Punchestown. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of going against the way I'd normally bet here. I'm going against Banbridge, who's rated 165, and is just a very solid type of horse who loves this ground. With Found a 50 on the basis of potential progression, and maybe he's not good enough at the moment to beat him, but when he beat Pinkerton the last day, I think I tipped Pinkerton up here on the basis he was giving him a stone. That's a massive amount of weight, even over the trip, which was a bit short for Pinkerton, and he still beat him really well. He's by a horse called Solskjaer, who I think is a half brother to Yates. And there's a great story behind him where basically he's only ever sired 2 horses, and I think Solskjaer was a lot less placid than the man he was named after. He was just very, very tricky to handle when he went to the stud game, and maybe next week I'll tell the story a bit better, but he's barely covered a mare, but he has found a 50, and he's exceptionally good. I know Gordon Elliott really loves him, and that performance at Down Royal was excellent. Now he has a little bit to find taking on these more hardened chasers as a sophomore, but I do like him.
We've had people in from Norway, from one of our sister stations in the last hour. I would have liked to have told them the story about Saucier because I think they only know soccer when it comes to Irish sports.
Yeah, I mean that was a sort of story that you told after 6 pints with Chinese whispers that you heard in the toilet. But there is this, if you look up, I think it's on the Racing Post. There's a brilliant story with the breeder of Solskjaer who tells it really, really well. How Solskjaer ended up with literally 2 mares, and one of them is exceptionally good. He's standing at Coolgown stud, so but he's covered 2 horses over jumps. He's only ever covered 2 mares, so I don't know what happened there.
Last free to air preview was the Paddy Power Gold Cup at Cheltenham on Saturday. 2.5 miles, 15 runners, half 2s post time. This was the race Martin Pipe used to always win when he was training back in the day in the 90s and noughties. Ginny's Destiny is the one I suppose to look at first of all here. Good jumper, talented individual, will be suited by the race, well handicapped. Does he need the run, I suppose, is the question. Paul Nichols is no shrinking violet when it comes to talking up his horses, comparing this horse's work to Masterminded. Ginny's Destiny, short enough in the betting. A couple of Irish horses as well. Let's Go Champ for Henry de Bromhead, Heart or Dark, with Jonathan Burke riding for Gavin Cromwell. So this is another one that's... Galloa won the race a couple of years ago. Protector Ash won the Ryanair Chase back in March. Good race.
Yeah.
Imagine was once with Gordon Elliott, now with Harry Durham.
Really interesting runner, Imagine, who was actually shorter in the week now, has gone out to sort of 15-2 top price of William Hill, and it's William Hill's ambassador Gavin Cromwell, whose horse I like here, Heart or Dark. More so because of his price, because he does have a bit to prove. He pulled up in the Irish National the last day, but I think he was with John McConnell. When he went to Gavin, then he won a Clonmel. He was good that day, very well backed, and then he won the Leinster National. In a stylish manner under Sean Flanagan off a mark of 128. So he's 13 higher here. Now that's not bad considering you'll always get a few pounds in Britain. And the day at Fairyhouse, JD, it seems a long time ago now, but the weather was appallingly bad all year, and it was atrocious ground at Fairyhouse in the Irish National.
Put a line through it.
And Gavin said he didn't stay. Another thing that's of interest, we'll talk about the Troytown later in the show, but he was toggling between the two. So if you're going to send him over here, I think his line was he's not slow, this horse, so the Troytown would be more of a stamina test. So coming over here, running off 10-2 under Johnny Burke, I think he's quite interesting. And just looking at William Hill here, 22-1, a fifth of the odds, a quarter. The good horses in the race you mentioned, like Ginny's Destiny, is very hard to pick a hole in, apart from the fact that he's quite short in a very competitive race. And obviously Protectorate, you'd respect. Imagine's a fascinating runner as well for Harry Durham.
We've all been caught as well. It's got a squeak if some of his early potential remains. Cost a lot of money for Nigel Twiston Davis. Has now moved to Christian Williams. Was once a very expensive horse, and they were comparing him to Imperial Commander. Close second over the course and distance in October, right down the bottom of the handicap. Let's Go Champ won at Punchestown well. Remember that day. Didn't appear to stay in the Galway plate. Does an each way chance though once again. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Heart of Dark was one of the ones I shortlisted, and I do think he's got an each way chance. Can't have Janadil, Fugitive. I think Imagine yet to win over the distance would be just a bit of an issue for me. Protector Rash, I think, is probably too badly handicapped when you're talking about horses against. Protector Rash is a very good horse on softer ground, but yeah, I wouldn't be against your Heart or Dark. So we've already kind of done it. Make Man a Double J. So we sticking with that one. Anything else for the free to air that you want to point out for the weekend in any other race?
For the free to air, actually, I'll mention the horse anyway. East India Dock in the 12:35. It was around this time last year. It was probably
Navan or Cheltenham.
Sorry, this is Cheltenham in the juvenile hurdle
on Saturday.
So he's actually half brother to Burdett Road, who runs in the Great One.
Yes,
and he's in the same colours.
All right.
Was with James Fanshawe, and he's by Golden Horn, who does quite well, I think, with his hurdler so far. But he won at Wincanton. What I like about this horse, JD, is he's very good staying form on the flat, but he seems to travel quite well in his races. And again, this advertises the prize money. This is a 45 grand race for juveniles and like we wouldn't be within an ass's roar of that in Ireland at the moment with our prize money. So the horses coming over from Ireland in the race are Prairie Angel, who's done really well so far, coming from Joseph O'Brien's. Peter McCrearson's over My Mate Tony. There were other Irish entries, but East India Dock at 11-4 with William Hill. I really like that horse.
East India Dock, one to watch, folks, for the first race at Cheltenham on Saturday, 12:35.
I'll give them Double J though as our selection.
Our selection, Make Man a Double J, folks, this week is Dawn Rising. This runs in the Lismullen Hurdle at 1:58 on Saturday at Navan. in the colours of JB McManus, Mark Walsh to ride, course and distance winner, interesting outsider. You can get about 20 to 1 each way on Dawn Rising if you want a euro each way in that one. The Liz Mullen Hurdle, that is at Navan on Saturday. This is the Racing Pod on Off the Ball. If you're listening to the free version of the podcast, we're leaving you here. But if you're looking for more, including our look at Sunday's features at Navan and Cheltenham, go to offtheball.com/join to subscribe and get the full podcast with all of our racing tips, insights and stories from the week's action.